Hey everyone, welcome back to Accessible Intelligence Launch. Just four friends trying to figure it out at this point of both their careers, but then also this Substack Live situation. I I had a plan, and that plan is not going according to plan. I hope also that the mic is working. I know this is like somewhat shaky, but hopefully switch we'll be able to switch into a more stable situation in a bit. So I'm just going to tee up today's episode, and maybe it is best if I put the camera down for now. It's a situation where I'm trying to figure out how to keep talking while the camera doesn't fall. I think this is good. So hey guys, it's Sam here as always, your host, and for now, the only person who is on this stream. Essentially, what we're going to do with this episode is talk about the future of education. And because it is relevant with Hillary, our very own Hillary, getting into one of her law school choices, and I will wait for her to come for us to talk about what school that is and also how she's feeling about it. But that was sort of the impetus for starting to talk about what does schooling even mean in 2026? I think that has been a focus across me, Austin, Hillary, and Megan. We are still very much trying to figure it out. Megan is still doing her full time startup with Fig. Make sure you check it out. Link will be in the description. Austin is hopefully wrapping up a job process. And then also he has his Compete Substack. And Hillary is also doing a startup now with her co-founder, Brendan. And this is all happening before she goes off to law school in the fall. And I am at a company called Notion on the community team and also doing Substack stuff on the side. So I think the four of us are definitely learning a lot, that's for sure. And it's more a matter of how do we continue to understand what this moment really means for young professionals. Hillary doesn't really like that term, so maybe we'll broaden it to Gen Z. I think I've at least been seeing it more on Twitter, on socials of people wanting to talk about the new skills you need in the age of AI. And I think it even goes beyond just AI. It goes more towards literally how do you live? I feel like it gets to the point of like, how do you live a meaningful life as we continue figuring out not just technological shifts and disruptions, but also political shifts, economic shifts, and so forth. I think while I'm waiting for Hillary and Austin to grab lunch for us, and then we'll talk a bit more about again, Hillary's news. I will give a quick update on the Notion side. So this past week was quite big for us. We launched custom agents as a public beta launch. So anybody is able to test it out right now in their workspaces. Essentially, custom agents is the latest offering in the string of AI and agent offerings that we have been building up towards since our Make with Notion conference in September. At that conference, we announced personalized agents, which were these very cute. I'm not one to really get into the aesthetics of Notion that much, but I can also acknowledge cuteness as it comes up. These very cute uh, Notion agents that you could use to not just answer questions with Q&A, but actually act and clean up your databases, for example, or help you think of new ways to structure pages. Because as anybody who uses Notion knows, there's a million building blocks for you to build your life's work. And that was, I think, a great moment for Agent and getting people to understand what era of Notion we are currently in. We had Notion 1.0, which was about pages, and Notion 2.0, which was more around databases. Now we're in Notion 3.0, which is about agents. But as somebody who was able to test Agent for a few months before we publicly released it. That is one perk of being a Notion ambassador. And I will have more information on that in a bit and also link it in the description. Is it didn't feel, let's say, that different from how you might be using Notion. And as with all current AI tools, of course, it does not work 100% of the time. You sometimes have to iterate your prompts. Sometimes there are bugs, but we are very lucky at Notion to have the best GPT teams to fix those bugs and make the product even better than it was a day before. With all of that said, I didn't notice a huge change in my workflow. I feel like I was still figuring things out pretty similarly to what I was doing before Make with Notion. But when Ambassador started testing custom agents, which was around October and November, this felt like an actual change, especially when you're working in teams. Because the difference between personalized agents in September and custom agents now in February, wow, time is, that doesn't feel long and it feels long at the same time. And now custom agents in February is these agents work autonomously. So with personalized agents, you are still prompting and you get your result and then you move on, or you iterate a few times and then you move on. With custom agents, you set the prompt, but these agents can run not only 24/7, but also across your tools, specifically our other offerings besides this Notion as the main workspace app, but also Notion Mail and Notion Calendar. So what that means is whenever you have a manual task you want to automate that's just been sucking up time. For example, for me, there's some onboarding information that goes back and forth with new ambassadors that is much easier done just when ambassadors email in or let me know when they're ready to be onboarded. Now I have a custom agent that will send out that second email after an ambassador has confirmed that they want to be onboarded at this time. That used to take a lot of hours. I don't want to think about it too much, but now it takes minutes. And that's the general idea of custom agents. It's the night shift, it's agents that work while you sleep, it's agents that are on 24/7, and you can have multiple triggers when there's a new calendar invite every day, every week, every hour, I think was a later feature that was added. So if you have something you need to run every hour, go for it. And naturally, because this is a new era for Notion and using custom agents, there are different considerations for how much it takes to run these agents. So Notion historically has been seat-based pricing. There are four main plans with free, plus, business, and enterprise. And for personalized agents, those were only accessible to business and enterprise plans, but it was still part of the seat. With custom agents, Notion is right now figuring out what usage based pricing is going to be. So, what usage based pricing is it's a little bit in the name, but now Notion is moving to a credit based system where, depending on the complexity of your prompt, of how many agents you have, how many tasks they are doing, that will create an amount of credits that you are using that are on top of the business or enterprise plan. And it's very clear in the agent interface where those credits lie so you can track them. And from now, since we just launched in public beta mode to early May, this usage-based pricing is not in effect. So it's a trial period for people to try out custom agents, see what they like, see what they don't. And at the whole time, being able to understand how many credits they will be using up. And Notion is going to be watching very closely. We have been doing a lot of research already, but we'll be watching very closely over the next few months about what people's reactions to pricing are. So if you have an opinion on pricing, especially if you're on Twitter, make sure to tag Notion. Um, everybody, it feels like everybody on the Notion team is on Twitter right now. So definitely, if you have feedback, let us know. The ambassadors are already giving feedback. That's exactly what this period is for. And this all happened on Tuesday. So you can imagine the months of work that went into this across many, many different teams. I know that on the community side, we were able to do deep dives with our engineers, We also had custom agent office hours. We have a whole launch guide for ambassadors and other Notion community members to feel empowered to host their own custom agent events. And it's a really exciting and frenetic time at Notion. I will say, this was my first, I would say, big launch that I was a part of, and I definitely felt responsible at times to like get like ambassador sentiment towards the right people, or make sure that I was reposting and engaging on Twitter and just seeing the reactions, and good, bad, everything in between. It's all very helpful for the company to know, and I feel very lucky that the community, some of these members. Oh, that must be Hillary and Austin. All right, left door and then right door, and then yeah, that should be good. Right, Hillary and Austin are on their way up, and I encouraged them to join the live, but they did not. So that is that is their choice, but that's okay because I'm still the only person on this live. And yeah, it was a really big day for Notion, and I was really proud to be a part of it. And now we are fully in. I think we're in Notion 3.3 for anybody who's keeping up. We're at 3.3. And then Thursday, I kicked off the ambassador program for 2026. This program has been running for years now, but this our 2026 kickoff happened on Thursday. Had over 100 people. It was great. And I also was able to unveil that for the first time, our ambassador application is in Notion. I know that for a Notion community program, the default assumption would be that we would be in Notion already, but you would be wrong until very recently when me and the team were able to convert the application process from Airtable to Notion. It's open. You can just, yeah, you can come on in, guys. They're figuring out the door. Just pull it towards you and then open it. Yeah, there you go. All right. We're on the line. So just when you guys are ready. Yeah. Um so that happened on Thursday, and then we were able to have over 100 ambassadors attend. That was really great to see both familiar faces and new faces. And if you are interested in being a Notion ambassador, essentially Notion enthusiasts who volunteer a few hours every month to host events, create content around Notion, the application link will be in the description. And I encourage anybody who either has already been interested in Notion for a while or is feeling more motivated with custom agents and all of the exciting offerings to check it out, because it truly feels like an exciting time at the company. All right, we have with us here in this lovely place, Hillary and Austin. Here's the mic. Singular mic. Yes. Well, one is attached to me. So we haven't figured out how to use more than two mics. But where are you guys coming from? And yes, I will have to do this like vertical situation for now. No, because the tripod it won't extend long enough. Yeah. But all right, Hillary, where are we coming
Why are
from?
we here at this minute?
Well, we came from Westville. I unfortunately got the time wrong for the order, so hence why we're late. And apologies for that.
That
Yeah.
is okay.
We were there, and then we were here now. Thanks for the patience.
What is Westville?
Westville is a
Sponsor section.
I wouldn't say fast casual, slow casual ish healthy food place that has what Sam requested, but not exactly, of rice, protein, and vegetables.
Hey, it was close enough.
It was close enough.
Close enough. All right, Amazing. Should we eat? Like we can.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to disassemble?
Disassemble.
Disassemble.
And Hillary, you have recently gotten into law school, which was the impetus for this episode. How are you feeling today about it?
Honestly, like, I feel like I've spent a very long time being like, if I get into law school, it's going to change my life in some way or the other. Truthfully has not. Or I can rephrase that maybe. It's been great. I feel a lot more settled as a person than I used to be. In terms of my day to day, things are pretty similar. Like you just keep moving on with life, right? Like you keep, um, yeah, there's nothing more beyond it. I still like work for now. I still have my responsibilities with volleyball, coaching, what have you. Um, and yeah, like I'm still constantly negotiating like what happens after.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I feel good.
what
I
what
a
does
lot
being more
less
settled?
stressed.
What does being more settled mean? Less stress. That's a
Less stressed. I
yeah.
feel like as a person, I've always very much been like, what's the next thing? Like I have to keep setting myself up to do the next thing. And currently I don't feel as pressed to necessarily set myself up. I still am to the extent that I'm able to with like other stuff like outside of law school, but law school was like that preoccupation for a very long time.
Yeah.
So now I'm like also negotiating what it means to sort of like work hard and still like set myself up for success without like necessarily some of the more intense habits that I had adopted while I was prepping.
Yeah. Everyone have,
It's like deeper talking.
oh.
Oh
I was
yeah, so
about to
everyone
I
else
was
is
about to
eating.
pass the mic to Austin.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
How are you?
how are you doing today, Austin?
I'm doing okay. I've just been working on installment number 3 of Compute Compete,
Mm-hmm.
my landmark series.
Why is it a landmark for you?
I think it's landmark for the world, but it's
Okay.
fun. That's been going well. Writing currently, interviewed someone who participated in helping draft and ideate the Dutch national AI strategy.
Who is Megan's boyfriend?
Megan's boyfriend, yes.
The reference is alive.
You know we need it out. Yeah, Megan is with us in a better place.
She's not with us. She's literally not with us.
She's with us in spirit.
She is. We have some questions from her later.
Yeah. And the other one is about this AI summit that's happened in India. And also Anthropic DOW
Yeah.
situation.
Do you want to explain a bit of that? Because I was catching up on it. I'm sure a lot of people would want to know about what exactly is happening there.
So essentially, I think what it breaks down to is Anthropic, which is the maker of Claude, is, I feel like, pretty widely assumed to be the best foundation model right now in the US, at least. ChatGPT has slid a little behind. Gemini is good, but ever since like the new co-work thing, new 4.6 whatever, Claude has been really good. They're also the one that's the most integrated with the US government right now. I think they were the first to have classified information run through AI models, all that. I think there's been a back and forth, and this intensified with the capture of Maduro, which used supposedly Claude for it. But essentially there's been a back and forth about what.
And who is Maduro for people?
Maduro, the head of Venezuela, previous head of Venezuela, which the US captured, kind of kidnapped. Now he's happy in New York.
He's happy?
Yeah. He's living it great here.
Great. Good to know.
So essentially, where it boils down to is this disagreement over who can decide how the technology can be used. The U.S. military obviously doesn't want any civilian/corporate oversight. I hesitate to say civilian because supposedly the U.S. military is civilian led, but doesn't want corporate oversight over what it does with the technology, maybe because it's classified. And the Anthropic, on the other hand, doesn't want the technology right now to be used supposedly for mass surveillance or autonomous weapons. Because both, they think, for surveillance, the law hasn't caught up to the technology's capabilities. And for autonomous weapons, they don't think there is enough capability for there to be autonomous weapons deployed. They think there should be humans in the loop. I think this is not necessarily what the DOW cares about. I think they more care about the idea of a corporation saying no to them and saying this is what you can use, this is what you can't use. And at the end of the day, I think what this goes to show is AI and some other more AI stack related stuff is very unique compared to other defense industrial stuff. You know?
Yeah.
Before, if you buy a tank, you buy a missile, they get to do whatever they want with that. They own the missile. But now with AI, it's a little more controlled by these foundation companies. Shows that they're strong. They have a lot more say now, sovereignty wise, which obviously the government doesn't like.
Hillary, what are your thoughts on that? Because I have very little. This is like not really an area of interest.
I was
for
just gonna
me.
say, like, way to take up my time just talking about like the AI stack. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, good job, Austin.
That's what we
Yeah. I don't feel like I know a lot about that particular situation to talk about it. So I guess like very preliminary thoughts, but honestly, like Austin's recap is probably the extent to which I've been like probably the most information that I've received about this.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely just like at a surface level, like a conflict of interest, right? Like I think you can look at the situation without applying value judgments and just be like, okay, it's like the Department of War / US government has a very distinct set of interests compared to like a private corporation. And I don't know. I think for better or for worse, I'm always like, okay, like what is better for people, right? Like putting the institutions aside, like what is better for people? But then that is like also a complicated thing to discern because like who, right? Like are we talking about like people in the US who are like arguably like represented by the US government in some way or another? Like are we talking
Right.
about people in other countries? And like you can distinguish between also like countries that would be directly impacted potentially by military action from the US versus who are like maybe more allies. So not an easy I don't think it's easy to make a moral judgment on the question.
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing is like um I don't know. The one thing that does strike me is someone sent me how President Trump tweeted about it, and
Mm.
it's more just like it's kind of it's funny the way people are talking about it. I think because and I think the discourse about it reflects the extent to which like AI has really pervaded like the societal discourse.
Yeah, everything.
Where like
Yeah,
exactly
everything.
like at a surface level, like it should be like an issue that's like Department of War, US government
Yeah.
versus like a corporation, right? But now like there are a lot of voices in it because it's like about this bigger thing of AI, which like has like consumer uses that like or corporate uses that people are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So it's like something that people do have like I would say like valid perspectives on.
Yeah.
But like those interests are sort of showing up in places where it's perhaps less expected.
Yeah.
And to add two more quick little things. First of all, he's actually right to talk about like what are the implications for other governments. Because the US is in almost this good spot where they can say, no, we're going to override Anthropic. Maybe we'll go with OpenAI. Maybe we'll go with Google. Any other country might not have that. You know, if you have one source that is potentially the one linked with your government already national security wise, and they say something, if Anthropic says, no, we don't want you to do this, I think that you'll have a lot of situations where the governments might not be able to say no.
Yeah.
They might have to just take it.
Yeah.
And then second, I agree with you in terms of doesn't feel like a moral decision because I'm from the exact same perspective of this seems just like conflict of interest. It's not that the US government wants autonomous weapons, although maybe it does, but it's that it feels to me like it just doesn't want someone having oversight of them. That's a company, right? But it is taking such a moral tone in the country. Like I keep reading about like for Silicon Valley, this is like everyone's throwing their weight behind Anthropic being like, fight off the government. Don't let
Yeah.
them. And it's almost taking this assumption of they want mass surveillance. They want these autonomous weapons. And so it has become a very, very moral bulwark right now of basically like David and Goliath, the big bad government versus this good company. You know, it's a great PR. It was, and we talked about last time, I believe, maybe the ads,
Yeah.
but great PR for Anthropic.
Sam, thoughts?
Yeah. I'm just being a little cameraman today. just like push myself back. All right, this if Substack is listening, please incorporate landscape views soon so we don't have to keep doing this. But I'm sure it's on the roadmap. At least I would hope. I feel like the big bad government narrative is so civil liberties coded. Like Fire, which is the free speech group I used to work at, they're like going off. Like Greg, our CEO, is doing like selfie style videos down the street talking about how bad it is for like government surveillance and AI to interact and everything. I feel like the best tweet I saw about it was if like we go down this path with OpenAI being with DOW or just in general, it's like you're querying ChatGPT, like, wait, I meant to say bomb like a rock. Why'd you bomb a rock? And then ChatGPT's like, you're absolutely right. And it's like,
Oh, you're talking about the meta thing?
I think so. Well, like,
Remember the cheap AI?
I don't, oh no, but that is also crazy when like the Meta safety chief officer like had OpenClaw, couldn't stop her OpenClaw from like deleting her emails. I think that got a lot of traction as well. In Twitter terms, that's like 48 hours when I say that. But I feel like in general, this is probably like out of all the AI areas, I feel the least curious about just because it feels so like it's about AI, but it's not. Like I think when you have and like all love to fire, but like when you have a civil liberties group weighed in, like clearly it's not just about AI. Clearly it's about like the PR, it's about like business and government that have existed way before this current stage of AI. So I think what intrigues me more is when I see obviously a company like Notion release these pretty like I think game changing AI tools that feel very much like this wouldn't have happened without AI. But I feel like in this situation between DOW, X, whatever AI company, like this is the next step in US military and how people perceive of government. So it's AI today, but it could be like a different tech tomorrow. So maybe that's why like, it's not really tingling anything for me.
And you're exactly right. I think one of the best takes I've seen on this and like this whole question in general is from Semaphore's Reed Albert Gotti, I think.
Oh yeah, Reed's great. Yeah, Reed's great.
He has written on this and he's had this take for other topics as well. But his take is essentially AI isn't causing a lot of these things that we associate with AI. AI isn't causing these problems. It is bringing these problems that have existed to the forefront.
Exactly.
And so what we're discussing is not AI in this, but the questions such as what do we trust government doing? What do we trust corporations with doing? Should there be a social safety net? How do we reinterpret skills? All these questions that already existed, but AI is just, bringing to the front and then people are associating with AI now.
Yeah, I agree. Hillary, I'm curious when you're in an academic environment again in the fall, what do you feel like you have learned since graduating from undergrad that you'll take into, like you'll be having, I think, very similar discussions here when you go back to school. So how do you feel like, do you feel an urge to like get more out of them? Like I'm sure you've learned about how to have these discussions better since graduating, but what's your headspace when you're not just talking to like me, Austin, and Megan about it and you're non-law school friends?
I would maybe challenge an assumption a little bit that I don't know if I'm necessarily expecting I'll have the same types of conversations in law school.
Like better or worse?
No. As in like, I mean, I don't really know.
Caliber
like,
of conversation.
No. As in like I'm going to go ahead and say better. I'm like, well, like we're having better conversations than I would necessarily expect in law school. And obviously that's a very subjective concept.
Good on us.
But
look at us
I think what I mean by that is just like,
yeah, we all go to law school.
I mean, but like, I think what I mean by that is just like, and maybe this will like in a roundabout way sort of answer the broader question as well. But like, since graduating, I have just been a lot less bound by disciplines, bound by like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to worry about like, oh, what is like a political science lens on this? Or like, what would like a business sort of approach to this be like? Like, I don't really care. And like, I feel like that's how, like, on like a friendship level, our conversations have developed as well. But obviously, it's been a little more formalized in this podcast as well, which is just like, we're just like people. Like, we have our jobs, we have our identities, we have our backgrounds, definitely. But we're just people trying to like make sense of the world at the end of the day. And like, we can draw upon like a mishmash of like disciplines or concepts or theories and just be able to bring that to the table. And that's like what we're doing here today, right? Like this is like, you were talking about like Notion agents at the beginning, like you were talking about like this
War.
whole war. I'm talking about law school. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just like there's no like sort of like you're not bound to a particular identity in some ways, but in law school, I feel like especially because it is a professional school. I'm making assumptions because I'm not in law school yet, but you bring that identity in, right? It's like, okay, like what do you want to do here in law school? It's kind of like, oh, you're doing things from like human rights perspective, or you're
Yeah.
interested in going to Big Boss. So in some ways, I'm not even like necessarily sure that like it'll have that same like freedom. You will have the same not freedom because that seems like an external constraint. It's not, but it's more like desire in some ways to have these like free flowing conversations. So to go back to your original question, I think one of the big things I've learned graduating is how to just exist as a person and how to think critically about things and recognize the legitimacy of just like my independent thinking, like regardless of like what institution I belong to. And that's something I really hope to bring into law school. So I don't know if it'll come naturally that the conversations are as like wide ranging as they are now, but like if I were to apply a lesson, it would be to really get to know people beyond like the sort of presentation that they necessarily bring to
Yeah.
a classroom or to like a recruiting setting.
I want to bring in a question from Megan, which I think will touch a bit more of the process for applying. She asks, what have you been really intentional about when navigating the law school process? Because you're not going to law school just yet. Like you're still kind of in that process and deciding what was right for you.
Yeah. Good questions.
Megan always has them. She always
yeah.
has a good question. You know her.
I think
Always used to.
I think
What?
Austin said always used to.
Oh,
We're missing her very much
Oh
right now,
god.
by
Yeah,
the way.
Megan is she still in London?
She's still in London, I believe, but she's coming back
God bless her.
shortly.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good question, especially because I can't say that I like knew exactly what I was getting into, even applying into law school. And I'm not even saying this like I don't know what program offerings a school has. Like at a surface level, I didn't really know like what applying to law school meant when I first started like my journey.
So why apply? Let me start
So
there.
why apply? These are such great questions.
Well,
I
we're
knew
not,
that.
we're not here to play around hills.
Yep. I knew that I wanted to pivot. I thought that school was a good idea. A lot of like extrinsic sort of factors were pushing me just to consider school at the bare minimum. And it honestly was a pretty rational choice. It was like, I think I want like a professional degree. I like reading and writing. That seems aligned with law. And the other part of it, like the more um, like sort of, I don't know, like less rational parts of it, perhaps, or like more like passion, mission driven aspects of it was like towards the end of my time at Georgetown, I was interacting a lot with like the law as a concept. Like I took like an illicit finance seminar. I was taking an international law.
Were we in that class together, international law?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we
were. Yes,
were.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And Austin too. Austin was not formally enrolled in the
Oh
class.
right, and you like show up for
However,
like,
he
these
would show up.
classes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he even spoke with the professor once
Yeah.
during our.
No, that did happen.
I was standing to the side. I was like, Austin, all you. He's like,
Yeah.
well, I have a question.
Yeah, no, Austin's
Professor.
good about
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very intellectually curious
Yes.
man.
Wow.
But yeah, I was just thinking a lot about law as like an institution that just shapes the way the world works.
Yeah.
If I could briefly digress, like in our major, business and global affairs, one of our sort of leading theories that we really interacted with was open economy politics.
Sure. And explain that for people, please.
And basically, it's a political economy framework essentially that just says like you to understand a complex issue, you want to break it down to actors, interests, and institutions.
Yeah.
And I think for most of our time in BGA, BGA Business and Global Affairs, we were really thinking about like actors and interests, right? Like a business, what do they want to maximize profit?
Yeah.
And then we can become more specific with like, oh, like what type of business? Oh, like what are their more specific interests, right? But ultimately, like what sort of what mediates these interests or institutions?
Yeah.
And that can be broadly defined, but I think the law is certainly an institution that mediates. And in that sense, I was just very interested in that sort of macro level view of creating change because, yeah, actors are like a business can do a specific action, but ultimately, how does it fit together within a system? I think I've always been drawn to these macro levels of thinking, and I think law was a very conducive path for that. So just being intentional was just like staying true to that motivation to do
Yeah.
law, which is like really thinking about things in the big picture and thinking about like questions of like justice. Like, what does justice for society mean? And I think part of what's been difficult about my job is I'm not able to focus on such like macro level concerns. I'm focusing a lot more on like micro issues, like specific things that are happening for a given case.
Yeah.
But going to law school, I want to just like my purpose is to really like get into sort of or internalize this broader way of thinking. I'm
Mm.
curious what you guys think about these responses because I've definitely talked to you both a lot about the process.
Well,
So
Austin, yeah, we'll start with Austin. Austin has had a front row seat to Hillary's law school process.
So fun.
They are dating. So Austin, is that what checks out? What doesn't? Let's add a different perspective here.
I don't
on
want
Hillary's
to
law school
out her.
process.
But I don't know. It didn't feel very rational.
Hillary's law school process irrational. Got it.
Yeah.
No.
I think a lot of this makes sense and is true, but
Yeah.
a little bit of post rationalization.
Like in hindsight, like
Yeah. I think I think we both really like learning, really like school. Where you more or perhaps equally we have been shocked by corporate ecosystems.
shocked. Okay.
No, it's been interesting. I actually had a question for you. Maybe to dodge the question.
No, you
um,
need to give your thoughts first, and then I'm gonna give my thoughts, and then we will
Right.
ask Hillary questions. Let her
Right,
eat.
right.
Like, let's give her a second. The bowl is very full, and I finished mine. So,
Yeah. Do you have my thoughts on it?
if you don't have thoughts, I could go as
Yeah, I
well.
only have thoughts.
Like me and the DOW. I'm like, no thoughts, no thoughts here. All right, let's make sure we can figure this well. I think school makes a lot of sense for Hillary. She graduated top of her class from Georgetown, and probably the one who brings that up the most because I'm very proud. And she also got into Harvard. That's like the school we're talking about. I'm also very proud. I specifically asked before how many times I can mention it, and she said if it's relevant. So I'm making it relevant. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think first of all, like the fact that say what you want about Harvard, like an institution of that caliber has recognized you, I think is a huge deal and hopefully is a really big reassurance that however rational or irrational this process might have been. And I also know like how tiring the process was at times, like this should be a huge sign of reassurance. At least like that's how I would take it. As someone who doesn't take those signs very well, and much better at telling others, like I just want to emphasize that. I think I'm excited to see how you do law school in what I hope is like a different way than most people, including like my sister. And she'd be the first to admit, like very standard HLS person, went in pretty set on big law. She loves the law. Like she did mock trial, high school, college, law school. Like it's not like she's just there for the big law stuff, but she's, I would say, like a very good archetype of how to succeed generally, but specifically through her path of like Georgetown and Harvard and now big law. Versus, I'm curious to see how your path of success is the same and diverges from that. I, unless you've been keeping this from me, don't think you're a huge mock trial person. Maybe that'll change, but you definitely didn't do it in Georgetown or high school, which is of course a little different from Tiffany, my sister. And maybe you'll go to big law. I mean, the chances are you will. The chances after you went to Georgetown was you go to consulting or finance, and you did, and that's not an issue. It's just, I think we all come out. I think now that we're all out of college, like we understand what the odds are. It's not that people walk in and just want to accept it, but it's the environment you're in, it's the structure, and it's the opportunities that are there. Of course, it's going to be funneled towards specific specialties. It can't be fully equal all around. So, but that aside, I think it's going to be more important on, I think you just keeping people who are at those schools, but I think still have such blinders on in terms of how they think in check. Like that's how I would do it if I was in your position as someone who probably will never go to law school. Like I just think you have such smart people there, but they're so like you probably will run into people who are like so anti AI for no reason besides what we were talking about, where when you ascribe AI to any issue, like AI is making us go to war more, AI is killing the environment. Like AI is not doing that. It's like humans are doing that. So that is something I would love to hear more from the ground wherever you end up going. So I know you're still waiting on some schools because that is really concerning to me that like this essentially like top of the top people, intellectually speaking, still can be so obtuse. And it's really frustrating for people, not just me, but people who are just intellectually curious who never want to be in those situations to like see that happen. Because ultimately those are the people who are defining justice, are defining the legal systems that we're going to interact with more often than not. So those are my thoughts and hopes, but mostly just very proud of you.
Those are great, but I want to ask a question.
Austin, ask your
No,
freaking question.
tied to that, I definitely agree. It's what I think is so interesting to me is we've been talking about like launch, about these whole ideas of AI, the digital economy, our attention economy. How does this affect with young professionals? All this stuff. You're working on a startup.
Is it still untitled? Do we have a title yet? It's Untitled Startup Project.
Untitled startup
Hillary,
number one. Hillary.
just like Rachel said it, Untitled Project. Hillary is taking up the mantle.
As you said, she's now going to this or potentially going, she will go to some very prestigious institution. You'll be back in an institution. I think there is some part of, I don't know if launch could have happened from within an institution. Like it's born out of either frustration, disappointment, or disillusionment. How do you feel when you go to the institution, you're met with people who are intelligent but obtuse. You're in this chance framework, funneled paths. How do you think you'll bring or continue your current thinking? You're working on a startup into this institutional life. Do you think there will be connections between that?
Well, I'll raise that the three of us met through Georgetown, which is an institution. And I do think that is relevant because I think the institution is what brings people together. And then what you do after the institution is where things really sort of come to life. It does scare me a little bit to go back into an institutional environment. It's kind of like what I said before. Like one of my like main takeaways from like being out of school was just like the freedom I feel for being able to just like make my own choices and sort of like hold myself to my own standards, like define success in truly my own way.
Yeah.
Because like who else cares? Like I'm not being graded on XYZ, right? Like I'm just being graded on how satisfied I feel like I'm living my life. So I guess I definitely do see, I've always seen school this way. But I've seen school as like a little break from reality. Like it's a very privileged, like break from reality. You're able to just like, I always say like you get to analyze the world without living so much in it. And that's just the way that's just like how I see school. And so in terms of like, will I be doing as much in school? Like, I mean, like I'll be like, joining organizations, like trying to make impact the way that I can, within that ecosystem. But like, I definitely do view it as sort of a period of stasis, which is maybe like a weird thing to say because like, obviously it's like growth in all other aspects. Right? It's like growth like intellectually, it's growth like, like in terms of your career, etc. But like otherwise, I feel like it is a stasis because like I see it as like a period of like hunkering down and developing the skills and then like applying it and like doing things will come after that. It's like after I've accumulated the skills, then I will apply. So and that actually goes into my motivation a little bit for law school as well. Like in the first place, you're going back to school, which is like I feel like to do more things like in the future to like be more creative. I think I'm always someone who is like, you find more creativity through limitations. So I feel like school, in some way, this is a very like sort of loose way of defining it. But school, in some ways, I'm like learning the rules of the game, right? In one way or another, right? I'm learning the rules, and I hope that through that process, it will enable me to be more creative in the future. But the focus is sort of down the line.
Yeah. Are you gonna use Notion more? Do you want to?
I am interested in it,
You're
especially
Notion
like
curious?
I'm
Are we
Notion. I mean, I
officially
do use Notion
Okay,
already right now,
that
but
is
it
true.
definitely will be a different context in school as well because it's more centered around note taking, stuff like that. I think like my curiosities are like sort of integrations with because I don't even know how sources are going to work with like a lot of things being like physical, but also like to understand there are a lot of digital resources.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
At the very least, you could have like a citation agent, like whenever you need to cite something in the same format, like it should
Mhm.
be able to do it for you.
Yeah.
That should save a lot of time,
Okay.
hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll
but
talk. We'll talk.
we'll talk. I'll make sure. I'll make sure you know how to do.
But I guess yeah, I'm curious what you guys also think about that perspective. Like, um, I guess like what do you guys think about like the way I conceptualizing school, like as this period of stasis, and like your views on like actively doing things while in school.
Austin, any
Hmm.
initial thoughts there?
I find it interesting you use the word stasis because that's always the word I use when I was in COVID, stuck at home doing nothing for a year. So I'd almost say it's like the opposite of that. Um, yeah, I feel like I see what you're saying with school being a period of free time,
Mm.
but I think because of that, it's uniquely not stasis. It's like the only time that you're not locked into a path. You don't So, I mean, I'm sure you'll spend a lot of time, but you don't kind of have to spend 8 hours a day where you're being tracked where you are. You have to be
Yeah.
at the office for
Yeah.
these 8 hours working this job. You have all this time. So, like, part of my question was like how you see, working on the startup during all this, or I think you have so much time that rather than a stasis, I see it as more, and this is why people would sell you to go to grad school if you want to pivot your career.
Right.
Because it gives you that moment to really be above it all, to interrogate, to do all this, but for the purpose of starting new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that I think the question is more broadly how we went through school and especially undergrad. And that is a topic that me and Hilary are very familiar with because we talked a lot about it, especially in the back half. I mean, I think with these two lines drawn of how Hillary is currently viewing school and the stasis of it versus Austin and the non stasis, I think I lean more towards Hillary's side in this moment because of when I think of school, me and Hillary did one of the most like practical majors out there. There for all the theories, you were applying that theory like Donna, or you were like applying that theory in India, or you were working with PayPal or the World Bank. Like there's very little time to just like think about the theory, and that was what I felt the most alive in the major. Classrooms still never stimulate me. I shouldn't say never, but it's the way I could see like Hillary light up or some of our other classmates light up in a classroom where I've had those moments, sure, but it's very much like flash in the pans and not where I derived, I think, most of my growth in college. But Hillary, in the age of everybody on their laptops in these like 2+ hour classes that were obviously doing different things. We had somebody in our class who was very obsessed with like flights and he would always be like flight tracking and he would sit diagonally from me. So I always saw it and it made me get a privacy screen for myself and that's never let up. I know that I know should still have a privacy screen and some people prefer I don't because it's hard to like share, but it's force of habit at this point. And Hillary amongst this like sea of computers, just her notebook. And I knew the minute she snapped her pen, I was like, oh, she's about to write something big. It's like this is gonna show up in her thesis or it's gonna show up in the next essay, like this novel idea. And I'm like probably working on a club or something that I'm leading. And that's what I think about the most of this how I felt in the classroom because I think there are very few people who take control of a classroom like Hillary and not in a controlling, domineering way where she's dominating the conversation. She was not like I wouldn't even put you in like top 5 of speakers in that class. Not in terms of quality, just like quantity, specifically quantity. She's an excellent speaker, but the thoughts lingered the most with someone like Hillary. Probably 90% of the people who walk out of those classes are like, all right, like on to the next thing, onto a club or onto actually it's similar in law school. Like, yeah, onto my club, onto my meal, onto this date or whatnot. But Hillary, I think, was always willing to extend the conversation, not just with the professor, even though she was beautiful at doing that, but with me and others, no matter like what type of interest we had. And that always stuck with me because I never felt that urge versus the first time I felt that urge was with Notion because I had been learning it through college. And that was the first time I felt the urge to like let people know and see what they were thinking. And now I work there. That's great. But I think the best type of school is allowing you to figure out how you learn best and just letting you run with it. I think Georgetown, for what it's worth, has a great entrepreneurial setup. I was able to found a club, co-found another club, like think about how to start my own things, even do like Notion stuff ad hoc. And sure, I could have done that somewhere else, but the fact, as Hillary pointed out, is we all met at Georgetown and it was that specific experience that put us closer together, where I think that's what I would hope for any type of education for grad school, if it's pivoting or just like growing. If you want to get better at being in a classroom or if you want to get better at going to those events that those institutions provide, like there is the best opportunities are there because when you're in companies, you're kind of just expected to know what to do. You're expected to know how to talk to people. You're expected to know how to get your shit done if you're at like a good company. And yeah, school should be a training ground for however you see yourself growing and learning after it. And that's different for everybody.
Yeah. If I could actually ask a follow up,
Oh,
Sam.
yeah.
Yeah, you keep it straight trained on. Yeah. Um, it's not a fully formed thought. So, I mean, I'm just stuck on kind of what you said about how in undergrad, right? But in school generally, like a lot of places, or in your undergrad experience, you felt like you were able to sort of pursue the things that you wanted to get out of school. Like it didn't have
Yeah.
to be in the classroom, but like broadly speaking, like what you wanted from, let's just say, even like that period in your life,
Yeah.
right? With the resources you had available to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you did a lot while we were in school, but specifically, you created a lot of initiatives, right? Which in some ways, like, really parallels like what you're doing now post grad. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, if you were to compare those experiences, how does doing that now feel different from how it was like in undergrad?
Well, the stakes feel higher, I would say. I think now, not only in my day job, and I think Emma's still on call, so I love my day job just because my boss might be watching right now. But I think because I know what it's like to build something good, it's almost like how much higher can you go? I feel like I'm pushing myself more now, especially because I'm really lucky where I talk to you guys and other people who I really respect. And I've been throwing some ideas around on how I feel about like the future of work and the future of media. And things are sticking and it gives me it it's really been gratifying, but also I think it feels more daunting. And maybe this is just part of we're all very young, so like getting older. I think about so I love driving. It's been diluted a bit since I don't drive as much since I don't live in Ohio anymore. But I've noticed that when I get behind the wheel, even now as like a 20 something, I'm more cautious. Like I think about all the ways I could crash this, or I could. I've only been in one car crash, and thankfully no one got hurt. But it it feels like I'm so much less reckless, even with a few years, and I feel that the most when I drive. Like I used to drive like I didn't drive crazily, but I floored it at times, and I didn't really think too much about the traffic lights at times, but good enough, and never put anyone in danger. But now I'm like so much more cautious. I'm like checking everything. I'm like, okay, the windshield fluid's low. Like maybe we need to fix that. And it feels similar to what I'm thinking about now with my work, but also this is where the analogy is different, where I feel like there's so much more runway now. I feel like I have the time, the thoughts, the people around me to challenge me. And I think to get back to what I was talking about with a good school set you up to grow, like that is how I think Georgetown has set me up the best, where I founded clubs, did things in college, and that took a lot of work, and that was great. And now I can do it on a larger scale and go forth, hopefully.
Feel free to challenge this conceptualization, but like,
Sure.
did it feel like training wheels in some ways, or did it feel like something that had sort of like real consequence in and of itself? And it's just now that it's like different. Like, I guess a different way of thinking about it is it like the stakes are higher now, or are they just different?
I feel like it felt really serious at the time. Like if
Yeah.
Bridge USA did not
Yeah,
give you
and that's why I'm
shot,
asking. Like you took things very, and as did like a lot of people who are in leadership in clubs, right?
yeah, that is fair. I think when you're in it, you're like, wow, this is like this because you believe in it so much. Otherwise, why are you putting all the effort to start it? So I would say in the moment, like founding Bridge and then co-founding Product Space, it felt like the stakes are high. But then looking back on it and what I actually have gotten from it, it feels like, okay, maybe I could have chilled out a little bit. But I probably will say the same thing 5 years down the line and looking back at this time. So it's almost just a relative thing where right now the thoughts I have are very serious about like, how can Notion embrace this new era, or how can we get community members who've been with Notion for so long embrace this new era? Like that feels very important and serious, and it is. But I do think probably in a few years I'll be like, oh, like like it probably could have been different or just more chill. But I guess that means it never feels that way in the moment because you care, and that's not a bad thing.
That makes sense.
No.
Growth over time, I guess. You'll always
Growth.
look back. Hindsight is 2020, as I'm being constantly reminded.
Yeah, growth mindset, and I think at least I'm curious how you experience this at Harvard or wherever else. But the impact of grades, I don't think I will ever get over the feeling of getting a bad grade. And I think that's been so ingrained in me and probably many children where it doesn't matter like how little or big the assignment test is. If I get a B, I'm just like, fuck, like this. And as someone who like got B's, it wasn't even like a super rare occurrence, but I don't know, like I don't know if I'll ever get over that feeling, which makes me even less inclined to go back to school. But I don't know like how your relationship with grades felt, if there's any difference between starting it versus ending school and now going back to school. Maybe you also going back to school. I don't know if you guys feel differently or the same.
Well, one thing I learned recently, like as in like a few days ago, is that actually Harvard doesn't have grades.
Oh.
It has like, I think one is like, I don't know if it's like not passing or just like below average, and then like the vast majority of people get like a passing grade. A few people get like honors grades, and then a few like 2 or 3 people get like D honors, whatever. So
I
it's like
remember that. Yeah.
for like passing, it's like you're chilling, like you're in the majority. Like
Yeah.
you could be near the bottom, you could be near the top. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's gonna get the same score.
Yeah.
Honestly, love that. I don't
Yeah.
like grades either.
Oh,
Grades
what a
really stress me
relief.
out.
Yeah. Wow.
But that being said, I definitely like what you said about like getting a bad grade. Like that totally resonates with me. I think the thing about grades for me in college was that I cared about them a lot, but I think in a slightly different way than I did in high school. Whereas in high school, I think it's in high school I was chasing the grade for the grade. In college, I craved a higher grade because of what I believed it reflected about my effort and the quality of my work. Um, and I think a big part of that is related to like the fact that I frankly took a lot of like writing, like essay-based classes, and tests were not like multiple choice exams. Like I'm not great at multiple choice tests and things that have like definitive yes or no answers.
You've written
So
about this.
yeah, so like in high school, like when I was chasing a high score, it was just like, can I like really like maximize my ability to answer these questions? But in college, it was like, okay, like I think my goal first and foremost was to really create a quality work product. And I just like believed very strongly that like the grade would reflect that. And actually like I learned a lot through that process because I think like currently my philosophy, perhaps a little naive, is like as long as you do good work, like society will reward you. So like that's how I'm thinking about like compensation as well. I'm like, as long as I do the good work, like I will get recognized for my efforts. I don't know how real that is.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be humbled by that at some point, but like
Yeah.
that is very much a philosophy I like not sort of super explicitly, but like implicitly internalized from school, which is like I was first and foremost going in it for the effort.
Yeah.
And the grade was a nice to have. Like I was surely like impacted if I didn't do as well because that's like your assessment, right? But I always saw it as assessing more like effort than
Yeah.
anything, and that's what I cared about.
Austin, grades, love them,
Yeah.
hate them.
I kind of have the opposite take from you.
So you love
Oh.
grades?
I loved them, and this is an interesting note with how it adds into now and what you're saying with it's the quality of how you feel about your grade, whether it's a representation of you're doing well, you tried very hard or you just, figured out the system.
Yeah.
And how that plays into now with feeling like if you do well, you'll get good return. So like for me in college, especially, it's all the time from high school to college, grades always felt like one of the main positive reinforcements of my life. Like maybe because I didn't do a lot of sports in high school until the end. So grades was like academics was what I focused on. So when I got a good grade, that would be like, if you're thinking about like AI, that's like the plus one I would get, the feel good, the little endorphins.
Yeah.
So I think throughout college, that largely continued. I thought of myself as an academic person. And so that was the main way of me seeing that. Am I doing well at what I consider myself to be? If I consider myself an engineer, maybe it'd be different. Maybe it'd be more of, am I building good stuff?
Which you are now. You're trying to be.
Yeah, I'm definitely a builder. Or if I was like, an athlete, am I playing well at the sport? But for me, I saw myself as, I was in history. There's not a lot. It's like the opposite of what we were saying with PGA. There's no practical sides about it.
Yeah.
When Hillary interviewed me, that's what came out. There was like, it doesn't touch business in the slightest.
Yeah.
So it is just, you write a paper, you think about theories, and you get, how did you think about the theory? How did you write it? And that's actually been, I think, a little bit of a shock to me with leaving academia and going into the real world. Because kind of, as you said, when you go to a business, they expect you to know how to do stuff and you just do your role. And either they give you a role that's expected of your level, or, you decide to have a rote task, or if you do something, then you just did it, right? It feels like that reinforcement mechanism has in a way been taken out of it. Which has been hard to adjust to.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if I have adjusted to it. I think there is something that about grades that does satisfy some part of my ego.
Phil,
I'm kind of still eating, but
eat away, girl.
I just wanted to follow up on that because one of my takeaways from working in corporate is actually like I see as a key difference when you're in school, you get graded because you're not sure if you're going to succeed in some way or another. And that's a reflection of the fact that when you're in school, you're learning, you're encountering new concepts. The idea is to create in some ways, right? And maybe that's a little bit too broad of a concept, but to think, right? To do something new, to write a paper in that sense, right? And you're not sure about how to do this sort of novel task. And that's what you're being graded on, your ability to approach that novelty theoretically.
Yeah.
And contrast in work, the expectation is to succeed, right? The expectation is to let's say run the regression correctly, right? Whereas in school would have been how well did you run this regression, right?
Yeah.
It's you apply the concept on a scale of let's say A to F, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to follow up with that because that's a key conceptualization that I think has been interesting to me, where it's in school, and it's a reflection of the differences in my view of learning. Where in school you're learning, you're being graded on your learning. In work, you're being graded on your performance.
Yeah. I think you got it exactly right when you're saying about the new thing. In school, you're being graded because, like you said, it's something new. It's how are you uptaking this and how are you outputting it. With work, it depends where you work. There's a lot of more dynamic places and less dynamic places. A lot of the time, especially entry level, this is your task. You learn how to do it. You maybe have a training period. Well, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
And you do it well. And if you don't do it well, maybe you'll get fired because this is what you're hired to do. Now, you're not hired to keep expanding yourself more and more. Maybe if you get that promotion in 2 years, but for that period, you're just kind of doing the same tasks. And so maybe you can't and it's a little silly to want reinforcement every time you do the same task correctly.
All right, keep that mic on you. Let's close out with a lightning round. We'll do individually. So I'll do Austin, Hillary, and then one of you guys choose. You guys can ask me questions. But Austin, I'm curious. We saw Anthropic take a swipe at OpenAI with the Super Bowl ads. Now OpenAI is clearly winning in this DOW government contracting world. What's the next frontier you think OpenAI and Anthropic are going to battle it out on? And who do you think is going to win it?
That's a really good question. My first thought immediately went to AI agents, but
Well, we all know who's going to win
yeah,
in that race.
not
so,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, that was already, that's not a question.
Honestly, so my immediate thought was going to go to agents, and then it was going to be, oh, maybe who will they partner with globally?
Mm.
But I feel like what we've seen with the ads, and then now this DOW issue, which maybe OpenAI will come out well on, because I've also seen that Sam Altman said similar things if he doesn't want to do autonomous weapons, et cetera, et cetera. It's not just about corporate. It's almost nothing attached to corporate success. Nothing attached to the models themselves. It's completely attached to almost the identity of the companies. It's so closely tied to the vibe, the narrative of it. It's like almost an ad hominem attack on a company, maybe because they are so similar in a way. Like, yes, they do have differentiated products, but they're both AI foundation model companies.
Yeah.
So I guess the next thing would have to be something that is a similar attack. And in that way, I'm going to say it would be something exactly the same.
Yeah.
It would be some way of OpenAI positioning itself as, oh, we're the, open one. And then Anthropic being, oh, but we're the responsible one.
Right.
And it'll be that same battle over and over. Yeah.
Let's keep it to a lightning round. So what's been the most surprising thing about the compute process so far?
These are very complicated questions for lightning rounds.
You gotta show your answers. You gotta figure it out.
Most surprising, I guess the interview I did. I really enjoyed it. And it makes me want to do that again.
Yeah.
I think the process of taking someone who knows what they're doing, you can get a lot more perspective out of that.
Do you think you'll be on Substack for much longer with your writing, or are you thinking about switching anytime soon to a different platform?
What's the other platforms? Are you soft launching something right now?
No, I'm just curious.
No,
you've been using Substack for a while.
Substack seems like the place to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what else would be.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to for March besides my birthday?
I don't know if there's anything else I'm more looking forward to.
Correct. That is the right answer.
No, probably the weather.
Yeah.
Definitely the
it's
weather.
already
It's
starting to
nice
get
outside today.
Yeah. All right, Hillary, Ms. Zhang.
Yes.
So, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about applying to law school for the next cycle?
Stay true to yourself. Like, truly, like, so many things will get you down along the process. I think it's like the refrain for me is like authenticity, and that was something I tried to maintain like through like studying for the LSAT, through writing my essays, all of that. Like, I just wanted to put like the most true version of myself out there and see what happens.
Think about the best or one of the best professors you had, and you don't need to name their names, but what was that quality that made them stand out to you?
I think engaging with student perspectives, I think it's easy for professors to sort of teach top down and indeed like they have the expertise. But I think the professors who really go above and beyond are those who take student perspectives as novel perspectives that they themselves then put in the effort to engage with.
Shout out someone from our business and global affairs cohort, which is about 35 to 40 people. It's a little unclear the exact number, who you think has done really well after graduating, excluding present company.
Excluded.
Yeah, just shout out somebody who, you're rooting for.
This is a little political. Who am I rooting
It's the hard questions, guys.
This is a hard question.
Anyone?
There's a few. There's a few who you see, and you could. We also don't have to if this is too political.
I have talked. This is maybe a little too political. I'll abstain from this question. Don't worry about it, Austin.
What's a New York thing that you think me and Austin haven't picked up yet that only somebody who grew up around here would know?
Good question.
Basically.
I think hanging out by the water.
I do that more than you.
No, you don't.
Also says he does it more
Yeah.
than Hillary.
Just like sitting there and just like looking out, like usually like being with friends and just like sitting and chatting there, like watching the
Never.
sunset. That's the
Also says
experience I've
Hillary
had.
over at the water. Okay, well, I look forward to us doing that because that was why I wanted you to show me more of the New York life. So that is all well and good. All right, Hillary or Austin, do you want to lightning round quickly?
Yeah, I can do 2. You can do 2. 1. Sam,
Yes.
you previously described yourself as first and foremost a creator. Does that label ring true?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It very much does.
Good, short answer.
That was it. That was
What
the
do you? No, I have questions. I'm trying to. What is a goal that you have for yourself coming this spring? Broadly defined.
I'm really excited to see how this is going to be like a work related goal, but how we can get the community and just largely Notion users in general to understand our philosophy behind pricing. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the recording, Notion's moving from like seat-based pricing to usage-based for custom agents. And that of course evoked a lot of reactions, not purely negative or positive, but just strong reactions because it's a big change. But ultimately, I've seen how much work the team has done to understand like what's Cursor doing, what's Anthropic doing, what are these models doing, and doing what's best for the company. And I think it is very generous of Notion to have this essentially like free trial period from now until early May for people to go ham on it and for us to get data. So yeah, that's important for people to know who don't fully realize it. And I know that I'm speaking from a very biased, like just looking at the Twitter reactions, but I just think that Notion's not getting enough credit for it. So I view it as my job. And of course, we want the company to really help people understand that we're thinking very thoughtfully about this, and that should be the most Notion part of this whole process. So I'm excited to do my part to do that because there's a lot of work, especially with pricing, to comms it well and to make people feel like you're coming from a place as a human, not just as a corporation. Yeah.
Mr. Sam.
Yes.
So you've been doing a lot of stuff with Cities Decoded
I have
recently.
Yeah.
What do you think is one part you want to work on moving forward?
I'm really excited to do more in-person events, which I hope you'll be part of as well, both as like a panel, but also just coming. And it's important to me because I talk about this concept a lot, but there's increasingly this like second wave of people who do not have time to read that viral Twitter article, do not have time to catch up on the AI news that week. And the next week, the thinking isn't generally, oh, we need to catch up on everything. So I have like 2 times my consumption. It's like, well, I have a family, I have a life, I have work, like, fuck it in a sense. And that second wave is being more and more ill-served by the next viral Twitter article that's saying, you need to have taste, you don't need to have taste, go against taste, you need to do this. Like, as much as I love people like Andrew Yang, it's not helpful to be like basically the equivalent of run for your lives, but in corporate speak, because that doesn't inspire people. That just makes them more jaded and cynical. And I would hope if there's anything we've learned from US politics is the party that talks down to people does not win. The party that tells you what you are does not win. And it's crazy that it's playing out now in tech spheres, but it's because tech wasn't built to be everything. Tech was meant to be innovative, but we're at a point where AI is just the start of it, but it seeps into today it's Department of War, the next day it's environment, the next day it's culture, the next day it's work. So what we're trying to do at Cities Decoded is help people understand both by going to events, but also through the publication, what does not just my perspective look like, but what does Hillary's perspective look like? What is Austin's perspective? What does Aleph, John, the list will only get longer, and provide a kaleidoscopic view on what we determine are key AI issues for, let's say, the week, and never ever tell people what to think, but to help them think for themselves. And I don't think that's a competitive space right now because it takes a lot of work. As you guys see when I'm trying to like get roundtables together, it's genuinely a labor of love, but I think I just have a sense that Cities Decoded is only going to grow if I'm able to put time into it. And that's why I'm focused on the in-person events, because this won't work if people don't feel connection, and they'll be a lot more motivated to engage online if they've been to an in-person event.
That was a quick response. Last one. Since you gave me such easy questions,
Yeah.
you were talking all about AI, tech,
Mhm.
It feels like you're in this community AI space. Like
I
you're very
am.
interested how it intersects with people, with vibes, and with groups.
Yeah.
So what's the future of the AI community?
More in person for sure. I think the reason why so many companies get community wrong is they think of it as a short-term motion, and they're like, okay, in this quarter we're going to host this many events, and this is going to be the ROI, and these are the conversions. That's all well and good, but anybody who's done community for a while understands it's not meant for the most ROI, like on paper. It's meant for these long-term years and years of interactions that people build towards, as we see with Notion, towards an actual product. It's not just the people in the community who like hanging out with each other. We're here because of a product, and that is still super rare. You don't see I mean, maybe this will change, but you don't see like the OpenAI ambassadors coming together. I don't even think they have them. And I know Anthropic's been doing more community work, but still, it's like Anthropic's too big for that community to actually like. There's so many different use cases for Anthropic and Claude where I do think Notion has a stronger pull as a product. So definitely more in person. And I think this goes back to Cities Decoded and Substack and platforms like it, but the people who can actually continue the conversations online and not just feel like you leave an event with like some LinkedIn's and then like good vibes, that I think is going to be also a new area for community. Like how do you blend online and offline? Because I think currently people do either online community very well or offline. But if people do a hybrid, that I think is should be what's next, at least.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Since you say all that, it's interesting, this idea of community, because I feel like this has traditionally not been a thing. You know?
Yeah.
No one's a Home Depot head.
Yeah.
Or like a Chipotle group.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It seems very unique to not even tech, really unique to this current moment of AI. Do you think moving forward, every company in this space will need a community, will need to define itself with its vibe? If we're talking about Anthropic, OpenAI vibe battles,
Like in tech specifically?
Yeah.
I would say so. I think that in the age of anybody can vibe code something, and of course that doesn't mean we're still very far from vibe coding equaling full deployment. Like I recognize that gap, but community becomes a differentiator. It's not the only differentiator, but instead of, again, telling me what your product is or telling me what your brand is, invite me to an event so I can see it for myself. There's this retail philosophy someone told me about how when somebody's actually like touching the clothes, they're a lot more likely to buy it. Like a lot of salespeople are trained that way. And it's the exact same mentality. Like it doesn't matter, I think, how advanced AI products get. There's still intrinsic human nature things that you cannot escape in community is one of them. So I think in the past, maybe the product like an iPhone was good enough where you don't need like an Apple community event to sell the latest iPhone. But when the stakes are this high and the innovation is happening so rapidly, yeah, like I think humans still process things best in person. That's why we're here, and we probably did the equivalent of like a 3-hour text chain. And who wants to do that, right? So yeah, I will say because community touches on a very human thing, people will always have demand for it, and it's just whoever can do it best will, I think, win out. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Well, thank you all for tuning into our casual, sporadic, frenetic lunch live stream. We'll hopefully have Megan the next time, and hopefully again, Substack team if you're listening, please create landscape mode so we can make the screen wider, or we can just do Riverside next time. But if you are watching on Substack, please consider liking and subscribing or recommending Mindful Notions. Helps us reach new people. Also, I will link all of the amazing things we're all doing in the description. So if you want to check out Megan's app, if you want to check out Haley's writings, Austin's writings, my Substack, I'll all be there. The Notion Ambassador program will also be there too now that it's on Notion. And thank you all for joining. Just really excited to see the next updates we have, because this has only been like about a month since the last one, and we all have so much to talk about. So I can only imagine maybe Haley will have the title for her startup next time. That would be huge. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye now.